Hi, I'm Kim. Join me as we do an unbox, build, and flight review of the J-Wings STEM Hawk STEM trainer airplane. Let's get to it. Tom is the founder of J-Wings. It's a company that makes various EPP foam models, and he's got a good website. I've got the link in the description. You can see the simple EPP foam models he makes. Tom reached out to me and asked if I'd do a video on his STEM Hawk. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. STEMs are the hard sciences. It's a presidential initiative to get more young students interested in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, in an interest that they will study that, become professionals in that field. So this STEM Hawk is a way to get younger people interested in model airplanes. It looks like it's going to be a fairly simple model to build, and what's unique about the STEM Hawk is that it is a modular construction. Tom has created some printed plastic parts that allow landing gear to be located in different portions. You can experiment with bomb drops, cameras, and various aspects of the airplane that let students build it, fly it, and have a good experience with learning about center of gravity. STEM is such an important aspect of the education for our young people to succeed in future technical jobs and fields of endeavor. Let's take a quick look at a video talking a little bit more about the STEM program in our schools today.
What is STEM? It's the acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, the disciplines that are vital for a thriving economy and a safe and healthy society. In kindergarten through 12th grade in the United States, most STEM teaching and learning focuses on science or mathematics.
So what I'd like to do now is an unboxing that I got in the mail today, very complete with the power pack. We'll go through that, and then we'll follow on to building. So here is the box itself. You can see the STEM Hawks. J-Wings is a company. There's quick read codes for build instructions, various add-ons. What is needed is a hot glue gun, screwdriver, 8mm wrench, and then the power kit. The power kit is located right here. So reviews, more information on kits, and so forth. So I've already taken a look at the power kit, most of it. What it is things like servos. He gave us 4 of these J-Wing servos, some propellers, some Y connectors, mounting bolts for the engine, little hex Allen wrench here. I believe these are probably going to be spars for the wings. This is some of the pre-printed modules that he has. We'll figure that out as we put it on. There are wheels located here, which is very nice. This is a motor that came with a power pack, just screws that screw onto the back to mount that on. I'm sure there'll be a plastic contraption to put the motor on. Some more things for the power pack are the additional servos and an electronic speed control. So that should work out just fine. It can fly, excuse me, on either a 2-cell or a 3-cell battery. So these are some of the components that mount onto the airplane, and I'll explain these once I figure out what they are as I go through the instructions. You can see this is the fuselage. The wings mount right in here, and it's a very tough foam that'll be part of that. Some more of the fuselage. Looks like something like this. So we'll play around with that, see how it works. And these are additional sheets that are all very well organized for wings, control surfaces, just everything needed to build a model. Okay, even the elevator and stabilizer with bottom located here. So there are very complete instructions on the J-Wings website. It's picture illustrated step by step, and we'll be using those instructions as we build it. Again, it's designed for students that have never built an airplane before. Easy to build, hopefully easy to fly, and we will start construction here momentarily. Here is the J-Wings website. Very nice website, tons of information on just about anything. You can kind of click through it, what you'll need, and it's broken down kind of into chapters on building the wing, the tail, the fuselage. And if you click on the yellow, you'll see the instructions. It's page by page. This is what it looks like. I just use an iPad where I'm building. You can use a smartphone, and each page is just there. You thumb through it, and you'll see step by step how to build your airplane. Very clear where everything is. Even had setting up the servos, how to set up the motor, connecting the transmitter, just everything that you need to build your model. There should be no problem with the directions on this particular airplane. So here are the parts of the kit. You can see the fuselage is in two halves. It just keys together. Flat foam for the various control surfaces, everything packaged neatly. It's not an intuitive build. If you've built models before, this will be a very new construction method, but you can see everything is placed out, even the bottom of the stabilizer, to help prevent you from making a problem. Squeegees, information on what the various parts are, where they fit in. It all flows into the picture illustrated guide. If you just take that step by step and just double check what you're doing, because once you put the glue in place, if you made a mistake, it's going to be hard to fix that. As I mentioned, I used an iPad for my directions, and it's very detailed how to go in each step, even bending the foam in preparation for the gluing portion. Just make sure your parts are orientated, they make sense before you do the gluing, and everything should flow into place. This is a view of the wing. You can see the center section is a fold over with the servos already cut out. These are two little spar pieces right here. You use a dowel to help facilitate the grooves in the foam for the bending, for the airfoil shape. And again, all very well thought out for the wing itself. The wing are built in two separate halves. There is a plastic connector that'll put them together. The standard wing, you can see one of the spars in place. Additional spars with an opening for the servo. Again, everything is planned ahead for this model. As I mentioned, that top wing just folds over, and these are the two wing halves. At the top, you can see the white printed plastic former that will be used to connect the two wing halves. I want to thank Annie for helping with the STEMHawk's wings. Thank you, Annie. So we've completed, or I've completed, the two wing halves for the STEMHawk. Here they are right here. You saw the building sequence. This is the underside of the wing. This is the spar that was glued in. This will be the aileron. This is the cutout for the aileron servo once it goes in. And you can see the little airfoil shape that just came about as we manufacture the wing. So that worked out pretty good. Notice with the modular construction, this is a 3D printed part. The wings will eventually just slide into here. And glue that in for the next step. And once that is done, we have the completed wing with a proper dihedral, the angle up, and it's all set that this will just simply slot onto the fuselage. So a very nice design. As I showed previously, I put the directions onto my iPad here. You can see each step are listed, and you can just very easily swap between that. And it is a step-by-step, very clear pictures on how to build an airplane. When you design an airplane with the CAD programs and you understand how the CAD works, how that can be imported to use the laser cutters or whatever technique you're using to build the kit, you can do a lot of tricks with the foam for scoring lines to help with bends and all that stuff. It leads to some fairly innovative building techniques. The catch is you're not going to have a set of plans. There are no plans for this model. I don't think you could follow a set of plans. It's such a unique building process. That's why the pictures are ideal. It'll just take you step by step. Just study the pictures, understand clearly what you're doing, because by the time you put in the hot glue, if you've made a mistake, it's going to be very hard to correct that. But it's a very straightforward process. It's step by step. Also, the J-Wings website has a lot of very useful videos on that. So between the videos, and remember this wing was about 42 steps, picture by picture, how to do it. It should go together just fine. So I'm very happy with it so far. Nice little wing right there. And the next step will be the fuselage. Continuing on with the tail surfaces, a very similar construction, just the rudders and the stabilizers just glue into that plastic holder. Everything lines up, it's aligned correctly. And you notice the holes in the holder, those are the dowels go through the fuselage to keep the tail in place. The idea being a STEM project, you might want to adjust the location of that to see how the different flight characteristics happen on the aircraft. So here's a completed tail assembly. That plastic just slots over the fuselage. The dowels go in place to hold it. Really not much to it. The fuselage key's in place. That opening is essentially a hatch or some of your control components. And again, you just think before you put it in, glue it in. The hot glue works just fine for keeping everything in place. This is the steps to make the hatch where you put in your electronic speed control and any other equipment items you want to do. Again, it's all thought out. It'll go together quickly. A unique construction designed for this model. It works out pretty well. There are plastic holders for the servos. They literally click in place. There'll be no problems with that. You can see the servos here. The wires are put in place through the wing and the center section opening. Again, with those holes with the dowels to keep it attached to the fuselage. See the hatch in place there. The servos are friction fit. I used a little bit of hot glue, which I recommend to keep everything in place. The control rod guides, and then the connection to the control horns at the control surface. The motor mount is designed perfectly. You just take the 4 supply screws, screw them in. The motor is all in place. And then again, the dowels will hold that motor in place on the fuselage. As a quick reminder, the J-Wings website, I'll put it down here, it'll be in the description, it's j-wings.co. Again, just co, it's not jwings.com. If you go to com, you won't get there, just jwings.co. Excellent website, very well organized, lots of information to include videos. Also, as a reminder, J-Wings has a YouTube channel. You can get a lot of information from their YouTube videos. We've completed the stem hock. It really went together very well. I haven't put on the wing, but let me go through the fuselage at some points of the construction. This is a strap to keep the battery in. The battery, I'll probably use a 3-cell, will go up here, and I'll have to adjust that for the balance of the aircraft. This is a little hatch that is built in to put in the receiver and the electronic speed control. To keep the hatch closed, we have this little swing arm right here to do that. One of the aspects of the J-Hawk is you can experiment with the placement of various things like the tail with this mounting here. The motor, what happens is there is the plastic housing that slides over the back. The EPP foam for the fuselage is very tough. These dowels just slip in to hold it in. You can put the engine here, or if you want, you can put it onto the nose. There's holes here for the dowels. So there's a lot of flexibility where you can put things. Also note the holes along here. You can put the wing fore or aft depending on how you want to experiment with the design of the aircraft. The instructions, as you saw in the videos, are really quite complete with photos how to do it. A few things that I would like to point out is one thing that kind of caught me by surprise is the control arms for the elevator and rudder. They were not quite long enough. So the directions have the control arm up to the front here, so the wire goes forward. I had to swap the servo 180 degrees to give a little bit more length on both the elevator and rudder for that to go in. They should have been just about a ½ inch longer. These are the twist tie holders, hot glued in. Those work out fairly well. The control horns, everything else is pretty standard here. The motor mount goes on very well. It looks like a powerful motor, plenty of thrust. We'll plug it here in a minute. Remember to get the correct rotation direction of the propeller. When you plug in the motor, if it's going the wrong direction, you simply take any wire, it doesn't matter which one to the motor, and just unplug it and swap it. That will reverse the direction of the brushless motors. Another important thing is they've done a good job with the insulation here on the motor connections. They're just these bullet plugs like this. It's super important that the metal, the gold here, not ever touch another metal. You will short out the motor. I'll probably put a little bit of tape just to keep those things separate so that doesn't happen once it goes in. I have a 6-channel receiver, but all you need is a 4-channel. And once I plug in the wing or attach the wing. This is the Y connection for the two aileron servos. Again, the motor connection. So those are my comments on it. We'll plug it in to see how it works, and tomorrow I'll put on the wing, sort out the center of gravity. Then I think we'll be ready to fly. So I've got everything plugged in. We'll just do a demonstration. There's way too much control throw. I'll fine tune that tomorrow. But here's the receiver. Everything's plugged in here to the battery, and the elevator is up, down, rudder is left, right, and it looks like we'll have plenty of thrust on the motor. So again, they've put in the correct angle for the motor. Everything should be all set. So what I'll do tomorrow is just attach the wing, probably pretty far aft, so we can work around to the center of gravity, make sure that it balances. Then we'll be ready to fly once we have a good day of weather at the field. So now some final finishing tasks. We have to think about the center of gravity, so we want to make sure the battery's in place. Mine came out slightly tail heavy before I put on the landing gear. So I had to dig a little hole in front, put in some lead fishing weights with epoxy. More on this later, but it turns out when I added the landing gear, that meant that I did not need this lead weight for the center of gravity location, so I took it out for the flights. But if I flew without the gear, I would have to add that in place. So here's a finished model without the landing gear, all set for a test flight. I then got some information from Tom on the landing gear, and I decided to install that. Supplied attachment point for the landing gear. You print this out from the instructions full size on your printer. Very important to get the precise lengths of the landing gear so everything lines up. The little green plastic holders of landing gear ends have to be slid in place before you bend the landing gear. And the landing gear can be bent with heavy pliers. It works out quite well. Just match it to the pictures on the frame. There is a fore and aft landing gear. This is what it looks like when it's all bent in place, and then it just snaps into the landing gear retainer, which the dowels hold it onto the fuselage. Here's a picture of everything all in place. I'll take out the lead weight for the flights. I'm done with the stem hock. I think we're all set to fly once we have some good weather. I've got essentially a punch list of about 12 things. I just want to recap with you observations, lessons learned, etc. Okay, the first thing is the directions mention the correct center of gravity location. It is super important to have the right CG. And what they've done is, see these little circles right here? That is the CG location. So what's kind of nice is you can feel that with your fingers. And what I've done is you can just balance it right here. See, the model balances very nicely. So it's crucial that you get the correct center of gravity. I mention that because of all the variations of where you can put the landing gear, the wing location, etc. The CG can vary a lot. It has to balance at those points. The other thing is they have installed this Velcro strap here. It just lifts up like this to hold in the battery, but it can still slide around. You'll have to anchor it some way. Normally this is done with a Velcro strip in here. It's a very tight fit. I think I'm just going to use some double-sided tape to keep it from slipping out when it flies, but that's the strap right there. That will, of course, depend on your battery. If you have a bigger battery, it might friction fit in there. This is a 3-cell battery, just something to be considered. You don't want that battery falling out when you fly. It'll get tail heavy real quick. One thing I like a lot on this model, and we'll zoom in here, is on all 4 of the clevises, you have these little screws right here, so you can stick in the music wire connector and very easily adjust the length of that screw. That's a nice feature that I haven't seen elsewhere. Really makes it easy for getting the right control situation set up. The motor is installed here with the wooden dowels. I could take out these dowels. This motor could come off. I could put it in the front if I want to. There are holes here. It's just this, I'm going to try the pusher configuration. One nice thing about the pusher configuration, there's less chance of a prop strike on your fingers. And if you nose over, the prop can't get damaged. So it's a way to save a little bit of damage on the prop and the motor. The wings are mounted, again, with these wooden dowels that go through the holes in the straps here. You can, if you want to experiment with it, move the wing further forward or aft to see what the flight qualities are like. You can very easily do that with the dowels. Again, just make sure you balance in the center of gravity. The model balances fine here. If the model's further forward, you're going to have to add weight to the nose to balance it out at that same point under the wing. Speaking of nose weight, when I first built the model without the landing gear, it was a little bit tail heavy. So what I did was I took these lead fishing weights in here and dug a little hole into the nose to glue those in there. I later, Tom, the Jay Wang's head guy, sent me the landing gear instructions. So I decided to install the landing gear. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. This weight forward of the center of gravity, I don't need the weight anymore, so it bounces out due to the landing gear. The wires are placed here. There's nothing super fancy about them, but what I did do, if you can see here, the wires from the servo, I put a little dab of hot glue there just to keep them from floating around too much. But you can neaten those up. It really doesn't matter. The idea is you may have to move some equipment around. Total weight of the model with the landing gear is 1 pound 3 ounces. It's not a lightweight model. The EPP foam is very tough, but it's a little bit heavy. The wing is a little bit heavy, so it's going to be a little bit of a heavy model. What that means to me, it's a real good idea to have the 3-cell battery for maximum power for the motor. We're probably going to fly it a little bit faster. The takeoff, it just something I think I may anticipate on the first flight. The red tape I put on just to have some sort of decoration. This is merely colored packing tape. If you go to Amazon.com, colored packing tape, you just get that. It's very lightweight. Just experimenting. It's a super easy way to add a little bit of color or decoration to your model. This is the included tail skid. It's a 3D printed part. Again, you put it on with the dowels. The problem is this is a little bit of weight well after the center of gravity. I just elected to put in a dowel. I use a 5-minute epoxy to put in the dowel for a tail skid. A tail skid should be adequate in this model. Steerable tail wheels are always nice. It's too hard to put on in this model, so just a tail skid like that. And the final thing is the landing gear. You saw how I put that all in. You just have to bend the music wire. They have these little plastic keepers that I glued in. It clips into place there. It's really a pretty straightforward gear. It's super important that you bend this landing gear right. And there are 2 pages in the instructions. If you could print them out on your computer. I happen to have AirPrint with my iPhone. They print out full size. That way you have the absolute correct diagram for the landing gear. It's just helpful to get that right, because this has to be right down to the 16th of an inch, or these 2 parts won't match up right. So this is the completed model. I think we're all in good shape. I'll plug in the battery. We'll see the controls work real quickly. They don't mention the control throw. I have about a 1/2 inch. I think that'll be okay, and then we'll be ready to fly. We have everything plugged in. Let's take a look at the elevator. Up, down. I think that should be plenty of throw. Rudder, left and right. And the ailerons, again, plenty of throw, and they are in the correct direction. And the motor, I think that'll have enough thrust for the flight. So that's it. We'll next see you at the flying field. So we're out here at the field, and it's about 38 degrees, but a nice sunny day, no wind, and we'll take the Stem Hawk for the test flight. So here's the airplane. Everything looks to be in order, the controls, all that stuff. The plane weighs about 1 pound, a little bit more with the battery. We will use a 3-cell battery. So I will try a ground takeoff first. I would like to have a steerable tail wheel, but I don't have that. If for whatever reason that's not working well, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do a hand launch. We'll just take off the gear, add the little bit of the nose weight to keep the center of gravity where it should be, and then see how it flies. So the next step is I'll put in the battery, we'll do a control check, and then we'll try to take it for a flight. I'll do the controls check. Elevator up, down, rudder, left, right, and ailerons look good. And the motor looks okay. Now we'll see if we can take it for test flight. So this is the no kidding maiden flight. Plenty of power, took right off. There was literally not a click of trim on this model to make it fly. It flies well. Even slow flight, it handled very well. It's what I call an honest flyer. There were no surprises on it. I will add that with those large ailerons, and this is no criticism of the kit, just an aeronautical fact, there is some adverse yaw in effect. that when you use the ailerons to turn, which we all do, the nose can go in a different direction just due to the drag of the down elevators. No problem with that. It's just the way it works out. Just the key thing is to use rudder to coordinate the turns. As a matter of fact, the model handles very well with the rudder for turning. So just some nice flights, some close-in pictures for the to take what it looks like. This was my initial landing approach. I just was a little bit too tight, again, due to the adverse yaw. Always be prepared for a go-around. Came around for another landing. It's not going to float in, had a little bit of power, and even with the tail skid, with that big rudder, I could turn on the ground and actually taxied in after the conclusion of my maiden flight. All right, we just finished the test flight, and I'm very happy the thing flew well. It's a nice flying airplane. You saw the takeoff straight. It has enough power. It doesn't have tons of power. You're going to have a 3-cell battery. I'm just certain about that. The other thing I found out, just due to the nature of the design, it does have a bit of what we call adverse yaw with the ailerons. I've got videos on that. You can look for it. What that means as a flyer, the rudder, you have to use a rudder to help with the turns. The rudder is super effective. Towards the end, I was turning just with a rudder. It works good. So the rudder is an important component of the airplane. But overall, it looks good. I had to play around a little bit of tape to keep the battery here. I'm going to have to find some place, some process with Velcro or whatever to keep the battery in place, but I can work on that. The other important thing I want to point out is the stem kit comes with 2 props. But what happens is, one is a pusher prop, one is a tractor prop where the motor is put onto the front. And what will happen is, you won't see it on the video, but if you look very closely, there'll be a number on the prop, which is typically the pitch and the diameter, but it'll have a little R, which means it's for reverse thrust. So I had a regular prop that I just put on backwards because with electric motors, it's very easy to switch the direction of the motor by just swapping any 2 wires that go into it from the 3 wires. Historically, the reason we had reverse pitch props for pushers was for a gas engine. It's very hard to reverse the direction of that engine. It was much easier to get just a special pusher prop. The electric ones, you can put a regular prop on backwards on the electric motor. It should work out okay, and I'm pretty sure that's what I did. If there's any update to that from Tom, the president of the company, I'll be sure to put that in the description. But overall, it's a nice model. I was concerned it might be a little bit heavy, but it flew nice. You saw it. It handles well, and I think it's a great little project for the STEM folks, and that was the maiden flight.